Hello everyone, it's Alex from Ernest Alex Reads, and today I am filming this video to talk about all of the books that I read in the month of September. So I hope you enjoy. Let's get started. I ended up reading 15 books in the month of September. Overall, I had a very enjoyable and good reading month. So let's get started. The first book I finished in the month of September was Transcription by Kate Atkinson. This was the first book that I ever read, written by Kate Atkinson, and I loved it. I want to immediately read all of her other books. I am a complete fan of her writing. I really love this book. I gave it 4 stars. Transcription follows a woman that was part of a spy ring in London during World War II. This book is a snapshot of 3 different parts, 3 different times in her life, and how they interconnect. So I would highly recommend picking up this book if you are, if any of that sounded good for you. Next, I read the entire Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard trilogy, starting with the Sword of Summer by Riordan, followed by The Hammer of Thor by Riordan, and The Ship of the Dead by Riordan. I was a complete fan. I am still a fan of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and a couple years ago just stopped reading his books, even though I really enjoyed them, and so I was on holiday and I picked up The Sword of Summer, and then immediately needed to read the other 2 books. So yeah, all in all, it's a wonderful trilogy, really heavy though. It's a wonderful trilogy and I enjoyed it a whole lot. I think it's definitely worth a read. They're fun, they're snappy, they're a bit snarky. Maybe these are the books to pick up. I then switched genre completely and picked up 3 Things About Elsie by Joanna. I thought this book was absolutely heartbreaking and beautiful in equal measures. This is a really powerful book, and it was another 4-star read for me. I also completed The Paying Guest by Sarah Waters. I enjoyed the writing in this book and the way the characters were presented, but I was not the biggest fan of the plot. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I then read Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I also gave this book 3 stars. I wasn't a fan of the pacing, but I did enjoy the world and the origin story of the Queen of Hearts. I also picked up Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. This is the first novel written by Virginia Woolf that I have ever read, and it is certainly quite different from what I normally read, mainly because it was written in the 1920s and it has a certain feel and writing style that is different from modern YA or modern literary fiction. That being said, I really enjoyed picking this up finally, and I gave it 3.5 stars. The German book that I read for the month of September was Der Zopf, or The Braid, and I absolutely adored this book. I thought it was clever, and the end twist, or the ending, was amazing and very powerful. So I gave this book 4 stars, and I hope that it will be translated into English because I think everybody should read it. I also picked up Pachinko by Min Jin Lee this month. I've been wanting to read this, actively wanting to read this book since January, and I finally did it. I finally read it, and I absolutely adore this book. It's a multi-generational book about a Korean family living in Japan, starting in 1910 and going all the way to 1989. This book was, I keep wanting to say powerful and heartbreaking. It's true. It was everything that I wanted it to be. I was blown away by the writing style, by the life stories of these characters. I think it's a masterpiece, and I gave this book 5 stars. The next book I read was Grace and Fury by Tracy Banghart. This book wasn't for me. I ended up giving it 2 stars. I really thought the premise was interesting, but the execution was, not for me. I think this book tried to do a lot of stuff in very little pages and ended up not being able to really pull it off. However, the next book I read was Pride by Ibi Zoboi, and I was completely engrossed in this Pride and Prejudice retelling or remix. I thought it did the original Pride and Prejudice justice while modernizing it and giving it so much more meaning for people in the modern times. I thought it stood alone as a novel, and I kind of want to reread it. It was so good already, and I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I then read a short story collection, The Refugee. Yeah, it focuses on Vietnamese families, Vietnamese immigrants, and their struggles and successes and heartbreaks. I enjoyed these stories. I think I ended up giving it on average 3 stars. The last 2 physical books that I read in the month of September were A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir and A Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir. I am pretty much obsessed with this series. I don't think that goes as any surprise. I think this is a really hyped, deservedly hyped fantasy series. It is set in a Roman Empire inspired fantasy world. I really enjoyed it. I gave A Torch Against the Night 5 stars and A Reaper at the Gates 4 stars. And lastly, I listened to an audiobook of The Thief by Megan Wallen Turner. I thought the pacing in this book was a little strange, but the ending convinced me that I should continue in the series, so I'm hoping to do that soon. I gave that book 3 stars as well. So, thank you all for watching. I hope you too had a wonderful reading September, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.